me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let me get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, no. Shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Tree. I'm taking all three of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media gear right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
I mix what I like. Hey. Welcome back again. I mix what I like right here, Black Power Media. I'm Jared Ball. Very happy to be back with you as your host, providing some of you with that good boom bap breakfast. All of the things, you already know what to do. Good morning. Greetings to the remixers already in the building. Shout out to all those who will be here later and who will see this later on. Welcome. Hope all is at least relatively well. Your doctor's not lying. Everything gets a little better. My coffee gets a little better in the BPM mugs and all of that. Yeah. Got to yeah. Before we get to the meat of the story this morning, again, shout out to the ear doctor in the building. Brother Jamil, what's going on? Peace to you. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, greetings. Be love. James. All right, what's going on, everybody? Sugar Booger, always in the building. Thank you very much. And again, Sugar Booger and Quaker Anarchist, really appreciate the social media dominance that I see out there supporting BPM. Definitely appreciate that. Good morning, Brother King. Respect back to you as well. I'm a couple days late again. But before we get to the business of the day, I wanted to start with I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't want to be, put in the wrong categories, but I have found some inspiration in Jane's Revenge. Are you all familiar with this group? Have you all heard about all this? I just saw this story the other day, or over the weekend rather, from Judith Levine in The Intercept. Beyond revenge, what does Jane's Revenge want? The attacks on anti-abortion centers express a necessary militant fury, but the conflation of militants with violence is a mistake. So, again, my interest in this particular article is not necessarily in the conclusions of Levine or the analysis of Levine, but in the reported actions and behavior of this group, Jane's Revenge. And this is one of the spray painted statements on a Wisconsin Family Action Office, one of the anti-abortion groups in Wisconsin. If abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either. Levine writes, when I read that a group calling itself Jane's Revenge had firebombed anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers in Madison, Wisconsin, Des Moines, Iowa, and other locations from Washington State to Washington, D.C., my first thought was, what the F? And living not that far from D.C., somewhat connected to the politics of the area, I didn't hear about this at all. So I'll check back in the chat shortly, and I'm happy, I'm Levine asks, or was Jane's revenge a first? She asks, was it a false flag? Was it the extreme right fronting? But as she writes, or was Jane's revenge a first? The anarcho-feminist descendant of the Weather Underground, the splinter of Students for a Democratic Society that bombed university and government buildings, banks, and other collaborators in the U.S. aggression against Vietnam during the 1960s and 70s. Very interesting. According to Jane's Revenge, that has apparently received mixed reviews. Our work to protect continued access to reproductive care is rooted in love. The president of Planned Parenthood. Oh, right. I'm sorry. So this is not a Jane's Revenge statement. This is the mixed reviews. So according to the president of Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, our work is to protect continued access to reproductive care is rooted in love. We condemn all forms of violence and hatred within our communities. Levine, I think legitimately, I mean, listen, she's a practicing professional journalist, apparently, writing for The Intercept. I don't claim to know about her work, and I know that you're not going to get a lot of paid gigs promoting positive support for this kind of behavior. And she does waffle back and forth. She admits feeling being inspired by this, but then of course we'll conclude that it's violence isn't the answer. And she refers back to we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, and I guess on some level I agree. I mean, I'm not advocating this behavior, but on some level, again, just like I keep coming back to the late, now rest in power, Russell Maroon Schultz, and in The Implacable, in his book The Implacable, he raises this question, and he looks at it again scientifically, and his scientific argument, following the laws of Newton, Sir Isaac, as opposed to Dr. Huey P. But he, and by the way, I've written about what should be our Newton's laws based on Huey's and our relationship to media. I mix what I like.org. Anyway, maybe we'll come back to that another time. But Sir Isaac's, according to Schultz, suggests that the opposite of violence is not nonviolence, which is the absence of violence. The absence of something is not its opposite. The opposite of violence is counter-violence, the equal and opposite force. And I only bring that up again because I think that there needs to be a more honest and respectful review of the history of what has been described as violent responses to oppression. It's not in advocating for it. It's not that I'm not saying I want violence. I don't want, but as Kwame Ture said, the issue of violence is not up to the oppressed. It's up to the oppressor, who have claimed a monopoly of violence. So if they stop the abuse, so in this context, Jane's Revenge is responding to the violence of the state against women's bodies and choice. If that stops, they're not out here just blowing stuff up for whatever. They're responding to something. And I think that needs to be respected in some objective, even if, so I think Levine in this article does a fair job of that, even as she concludes, that it's a mistake. But I don't think that should be I'm not even interested in whether they're right or wrong. I'm more interested in that they're doing it and what they're claiming their reasons are, as opposed to any sort of attempt to, at least right now, assess and critique the behavior. So she says here, that is Levine, yes, I confess the rhetoric speaks to me. And again, even this, just dismissing it, it's dismissive to call it rhetoric. That is, if abortion isn't safe, you aren't either. I don't think it's not fair, I think, to dismiss that as rhetoric. And I don't think Levine is attempting to be literal in the sense of what rhetoric is meant to mean. Anyway, because as she says here, their analysis is correct. The Uvalde Elementary School shooting was an act of male domination and patriarchal violence meant to make women, children, and teachers live in fear. We know it is deeply connected to reproductive violence about to be unleashed on this land by an illegitimate institution founded in white male supremacy, reads their call to action posted on the group's website. Maybe I don't know enough about what was claimed around the Uvalde shooting. Something about that analysis. I don't know if I don't know. There's something doesn't sit right with me about that this was this connected to, was this deeply connected to reproductive violence? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I don't begrudge them that. That's another, whatever. That's what Levine writes here, that I thrill to their language, wrath, fury, ferocity, and to their declaration that we need them to be afraid of us. But now what? Levine asks. We don't know whether the Jane's revenge actions were coordinated or independent of one another. The communique speaks of the desperate need for those who can get pregnant to learn how to confront misogynistic violence directly. They talk about a night of rage. The names Jane Revenge gave the June round of crisis pregnancy center bombings is obviously an homage to the Days of Rage organized by the Weathermen in Chicago during the October 1969 trial of the Conspiracy 8. Fred Hampton denounced the faction as opportunistic and adventuristic dabblers in revolutionary child's play. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Kathy Bodine, one of the Weather Underground's most charismatic and brilliant leaders, embraced the belief that the wars in Indochina and against Black and brown freedom fighters at home would not end without armed struggle. And she would later, according to Levine, conclude that this was the, quote, hideous error. Like the Weather Underground, Jane's Revenge knows that its movement needs to become more militant, yet it makes the mistake of conflating militance with violence. Yeah, there's something about this that again, Levine obviously has the right to her views, and I think has a sort of structural inducement to certain frames, but there's something about that has always just bothered me. Even the history going back to the discussion of the Weather Underground, even the critiques of Hampton and others. I don't know. I just keep thinking about Schultz, and I don't want to be. I think it's. I don't know. I feel like it's just condescending and disrespectful, and I don't know. I don't know. An example can be found in the other inspiration of Jane's Revenge, Chicago's Jane's Collective. The beautiful film The Janes shows the women the collective gave every client compassionate, respectful, and assiduously excellent abortion care. I did start to watch the HBO the documentary The Janes that came out this year. I have to go back and finish it, but anyway, the Janes performed a necessary service, but they did not consider themselves a service organization. They saw themselves as practitioners of nonviolent disobedience. Violence is not productive. The lesson learned is the ultimate point of the piece here. I just want to pull up the statement. Let's see. The statement from the Anarchist Library, from Jane's Revenge and the Night of Rage, an autonomous call to action against patriarchal supremacy. And I'll make sure the link is in the show notes if anybody wants to follow up on this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just starting here, within the month, we anticipate a verdict will be issued that overturns Roe v. Wade, setting in motion an evisceration of abortion access across the so-called United States. This is an event that should inspire rage in millions of people who can get pregnant, and yet the response thus far has been tepid. We have organized over this apparent absence of indignation. Why is it that we are so afraid to unleash hell upon those who are destroying us? Fear of state repression is valid, but this goes deeper than that. Your anger has been stolen from you. I actually like that line too, by the way. To this we say no more. We need to get angry. I agree with that too. We need the state to feel our wrath. The need to express this madness fully and with ferocity. We need to quit containing ourselves. We need them to be afraid of us. To those who work to oppress us, if abortion isn't safe, you aren't either. We are everywhere. Is signed Jane's Revenge. I don't know. I mean, that's fascinating. I had not heard about any of this. I had not heard about any of the bombings. At one point, I think in Levine's article, it talks about how not a lot of news coverage has been given to this, but I haven't even, I mean, not a whiff of this. So, I don't know. I guess the only thing I'll conclude by just saying I just hope that in off the record organized spaces there is more fruitful and honest discussion of what is being simply dismissed as rhetoric and violence. And I would like to find a way for those of us who would be uncomfortable with that activity to raise a criticism of it without it sort of kind of descending into the whole violence is wrong thing and we have to do this with love thing and if you head in this direction you're immature and silly, and even as Hampton is often quoted regarding the Weatherman activity or the Weather Underground activity. I don't know. I don't know. Because or there and the public criticism I would like to see have more in it. Like for instance, I would have preferred if Levine's criticism included criticism of the established acceptable forms of response that lead to the frustration and the lack of progress, that have some, as apparently in this Jane's Revenge group, concluding that next steps have to occur. It can't just be, oh, you guys are immature, violence is wrong, we have to do this with love, and then so let's support Biden and push him left, or let's get lined up with another nonprofit and get back to the real serious work of change. Somewhere there needs to be, I don't know. So because then the question becomes, how do you differentiate, and who's determining what is immature and what is appropriate? Anyway, all right, I'll leave that there. I just thought that was fascinating. I had not heard about it. So we'll likely come back to it, but anyway, let's get to the business of the day real quick.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
All right, everybody. So everybody's obviously hearing about the crash in cryptocurrency, and everything is everybody's talking about it. Everything is a mess. As I'm looking at it this morning, Bitcoin is down 56.9%, below $20,000. It's there's been more than $1 trillion lost in market cap throughout the crypto sphere. Layoffs, we've been talking about it. Everything it's just a mess right now. Apparently what is not, I see often, I haven't seen a lot that focuses on how is this actually impacting Black people, given the particular relationship Black people have, of course, to the broader economy, but also to crypto, to the crypto world. So I thought we would take a little bit of a look at that this morning, as I'm still endeavoring to struggle to get. I don't think it's fair for me to call what I'm dealing with writer's block. I feel like that's disrespectful to writer's block and to writers. I don't know what it is. It's something else. But I always struggle the struggle with the organizing my thoughts for this propaganda and focus essay, which is going to eventually be the chapter in the new edition of the buying power. I don't know. It's gonna be a long summer for your boy, for your man's right here. It's gonna be a little. Oh, by the way, I had to shave. I'm gonna have to restart the hair project. Had a little. I'm out of practice with the shape ups. And the mess I made of it required a restart. It just was. My ego is sufficiently humbled to the point, where this is overall possible, but not to the point where I was willing to go be publicly out here with what I had, the mess up I had made yesterday. So we got to start again anyway. Anyway, so let's start with just some of the basics here before we get to the specifics of the crypto. Just some of just a little bit of what I like to do when with doing any of this work. Because again, I'm not an economist. I don't pretend to I have studied political economy a little bit over the years, and critiques of capitalism and all that good stuff that wannabe revolutionaries do. But the details, the inner workings of the day-to-day economy, I'm not an expert on that. But what I do is look a lot at reporting and data that comes out around the economy. And then I look at how various outlets report or don't. So I just pulled up the Economic Policy Institute, their latest on racial and ethnic disparities in the United States. And I'm just going to skip down to the income and poverty chart that they have here, covering up through 2020. And here you just have the inflation adjusted median household income from 1967 to 2020. Asians are really doing well, over 94,000 household. Whites 74, just under 75,000. Hispanic 55,000, and here we are with black folks 45.8. Median household income, not individual. Yeah, and not an average. This is the median. This is how actual economic data is usually, not by averages, but by where people actually, the bulk of people actually are. So 45.8. That's just not a lot for people to be talking about. We have opportunity, equal, and whatever, and so on and so forth. And we can start investing in this, that, and the third. Black and Hispanic households are more likely to have the lowest annual incomes, under 25,000 per year. So in addition to the median, it is here we see that when it comes to the worst of the worst, Black people are overrepresented, as are Hispanics, but %29 of the Black community is under $25,000 a year, almost 30%. Persistently elevated Black and Hispanic child poverty rates have thwarted progress reducing overall child poverty in the United States. And again, I mean, we could even, as bad as this is, it's probably even worse, given where we know, if I'm not mistaken, it's still the poverty line for a household is 20,000 for a family of four, which is still, that number is too high. Wait, did I say that right? What am I mean to be saying? In other words, 20,000 for a family of 4 is ridiculous. So to suggest that if you're over 20,000 for a family of 4, that you're somehow out of poverty is ridiculous. 27%, almost 30% of Black children in poverty. Poverty rates are higher among Black and Hispanic working age adults. almost 17% of Black adults, working age adults, are in poverty. There are large racial disparities in poverty rather, at older ages. And again, one of my favorite was if you go back to I think this is around 2008. The Selig Center used to argue that Black people's buying power increased because there were fewer Black people living past 65, at which point overall most people's income decreases. In other words, because Black people die earlier, was the argument, overall buying power goes up, and this was reported as a positive. So this is again, one of the early forms of how the mythology could work. The idea that being overall kept out of proper health to the point that you die earlier is a sign of overall economic strength, according to how Selig was reporting it back then. Racial wealth disparities are stark and persistent, reflecting a history of exploitation and exclusion. And again, the history of exploitation and exclusion cannot be remedied by quote unquote financial literacy and better investment opportunities. Median family net worth by race. I mean, and you can see relative to whites, Black and brown people are basically have basically not improved. So while there's been maybe some improvement across, so Hispanic is 36,000, so up from 9,000 in 1989, but relatively speaking, it's not significantly different. And Black people in 2019, 24,000 in wealth. Black-white disparities in life expectancy reflect the cumulative disadvantage of living as a minority in the United States. Okay, go ahead, Black women. Almost, not quite. So wait a minute. Black women live, wait a minute, what is this saying? Black women live longer than white men? Ha! Congratulations. But Black men, good luck. My Indian doctor didn't think it was funny when I tried to make my joke about does having a white mother give me another 10 years. He didn't think it was funny. I think it's hilarious. But his response I thought was interesting, though. I mean, I was asking him about differences. He was assessing me. He said, and I always think it's interesting how I'm identified, just on a personal note here. But he says, I assume you're an African American, and I said, yeah. And then that's when I made my joke. I said, but I have a white mother, so I figure that gives me another 10 years in life expectancy. And he didn't think that was funny. And then I asked him the follow-up in that meeting. I remember, I asked him something like, well, what does the medical world say about so-called biraciality? And he said that as far as he was aware, there is no distinction, that I'm just medically calculated as black and treated as such. And I said, that's fine. I said, let's assume the worst. And let's get that care together. Anyway, I always think that's funny. He also didn't know much about veganism and the impact on health. So I might need to, I need, he might not. I might need to get, anyway. The Affordable Care Act significantly reduced uninsured rates across racial. Okay, so Obamacare helped. Black mothers are far more likely to die. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. I just wanted to get some of the economic stuff before we get into the some of the specifics here. I don't think I did, but I can make the links I'm using here available in the show notes after we finish up here. So in other words, once again, just starting with the baseline that economically speaking, the Black people are not in some improved state of being, and therefore are of course constantly both looking for pathways to quote unquote parity, and or are and as a result, I think that much more susceptible to stylized, targeted marketing around financial literacy claims, Black entrepreneurialism, Black capitalism, and messaging. So this is in The Economist from last month. Why the crypto crash hit Black Americans hard, and what they're just showing here is where people's ownership of financial products are. So in terms of stock, white folks versus Black crypto. So what it shows here is that white people have more individual stocks, more savings accounts, more mutual funds, more individual bonds, more bond mutual funds than Black people. The only place it's inverted is in cryptocurrency, where white people in blue have significantly less than Black people. And again, I don't think this is because Black people are collectively inferior, dumber, less capable, whatever. I think this chart speaks to exactly where I started just a moment ago, and what I've been trying to be somewhat focused on over the last several years. The crisis imposed, the colonization specifically imposed on Black people, combined with the particular messaging that comes to Black people, the particular frames put on that messaging, result in this. Black people are oppressed. Black people are, as we just looked at, willfully excluded from the economic system. Or rather, they're meant only to participate in the economic system as exploited labor, colonized, as a colony, to be from which everything is to be extracted. So when the messaging comes post 2008, increasingly so, involving all manner of alternative Black media, commercial Black media, increasing celebrity, just look at, which I have linked in the show description. Just go back, even if you don't watch them, just review the thumbnails of the Cryptoganda playlist. And you can see how we've been just tracking it from hip hop and Instagram and influencers and Spike Lee and Crypto Bowl, Super Bowl ads and the existing commercial black press promulgation of black entrepreneurialism, all of this results in this being a flipped dynamic. White people have more money. White people have more experience with the stock market. They have more access to various asset classes, as Hill Harper always likes to say. They inherit more. They have more to play with, to be quote unquote diversified in their portfolio. Although Warren Buffett's homeboy, the white boy that he runs Berkshire Hathaway with, what's his name? Who's always talking, rough and gangster like when he's talking about how he's rich and everybody else is poor and dumber than him. What's his name? He's always saying, diversification of a portfolio is nonsense. You should just get in like, he's like, I've always just been in like 4 to 5 top performing stocks, and I just stick with that. And that's how you get rich. And he just, of course, he always leaves out all the other stuff. My father owned a grocery store, was friends with Warren Buffett's family. And when Warren blew up, he brought me with him. And we had the money to invest in these blue chip stocks. And of course, if you have a bunch of money that you can throw in on whatever, Apple and Microsoft, particularly early on, of course, that's all you need. I mean, duh. I mean, if I had, if I had a majority stake in Amazon, or if I had a whole bunch of Amazon stock, I wouldn't need anything else. Duh. Anyway, but that's why this is, so that's why. So of course this would be flipped, and black people would have more than whites in crypto spaces. So as it says, when the dominoes fell, they fell swiftly. Anyway, but that's all for this. That's all I needed from this one. I just wanted to show this graph here. And then they did this survey here. Investing in crypto is risky. You could lose your money. White people far more likely to think it's risky than black people. If cryptocurrency is hacked, you cannot get it back. Everybody basically agrees with that. Cryptocurrency is safe. Look at black people way out here. Cryptocurrency is regulated by the government way out here. No, it's not. And that's why it reminded me of the season 3 opener for the Boondock series, when they made fun of black people's misreading, or really they made fun of black people's correct reading of the misinformation about Obama. And they were, Obama's going to get us out of the war. No, he's not. He didn't say that. Obama's going to lower my taxes. No, he's not. He didn't say that. Obama's going to, all these things that they were thinking Obama was going to do that he never even said. The same thing here. Cryptocurrency is regulated by the government. No, it's not. But black people think it is, far more than white. And black people are far more likely to think it's safe than white folks. Again, this is not because black people are dumb. It's because black people have been targeted by a particular form of cryptoganda and messaging, layered on top of centuries of colonization. That's what that is. And a lot of, do you all see how many of these folks are out here? The $1 million worth of game podcasts, the Him 500s, all of them, all the way to the Tory Lanez, to Nas doing NFTs, Snoop, everybody in the whole black world is telling black people that this is the way to go. The people I debated, and again, even if you just skip ahead, go to the end of that debate with the gentleman of crypto. My former Navy homeboy, and of course he reminded me of so many people that I saw in the Navy. They loved that spot. He seemed like, I bet he loved being in that joint. But his whole thing, he admits at the end of the debate, I don't care about everybody. I don't care about the environment. We can't save everybody. Either you get in and get on, or get out. It's like, this is what, of course, black people are going to be encouraged to all of that. I'm gonna come back to Reggie Middleton in a minute. I think I just saw something that I think I'm gonna show you in a minute that I think helps explain all of that too, because he's in some sort of patent dispute apparently. But we'll come back to that in a second. Because again, with my good folks at Wall Street on Parade, as the speeding crypto train crashes, scientific and engineering experts tell Congress that both crypto and blockchain were a sham from the beginning. So this is again, so all those white folks, when you see that graph that I showed you just a second ago of white folks not being conned, because they're in all of those insider trading meetings. They're in the Nancy Pelosi meetings. They're in the what did we just cover the other day? The NFT insider trading. They're in those spaces more likely than black folks. Crypto pushers hired themselves Trump's outgoing SEC chairman, Jay Clayton. That by the way, hello. Hold on. I got something for that. Hello. I mean, so crypto pushers hired themselves Trump's outgoing SEC chairman, Jay Clayton. Message. That's a message. They also hired a boatload of celebrities like Matt Damon, LeBron James, Spike Lee, Tom Brady, Alec Baldwin, among numerous others, and high-priced lobbyists to sway Congress and state legislatures to back off any regulatory push. Crypto even slapped its name on sports stadiums and arenas similar to Enron and Citigroup just before they blew up from specious business models. Message. Yeah, I mean, these are messages. Like any other pump and dump scheme, Cryptomania worked for a while. Insiders grabbed their windfall profits early and left the unsophisticated with the losses. Now crypto concerns are hiring themselves. The likes of big law firm Aiken Gump. That's not the name. To explain why investors can't get access to $11 billion in frozen accounts at Celsius Network. Aiken Gump. There's jokes in there somewhere. I'll come back to the chat later and get them all. Is that like... What was Forrest Gump's fishing boat venture? Bubba Gump Shrimp. This is Aiken Gump legal firm. As reports spill out in mainstream media of average folks losing their entire retirement savings or the money they had squirreled away for their first home in the latest crypto bust, a group of 26 scientists, software engineers, and technologists have released a letter they sent to key members of Congress, including Senator Sherrod Brown, chair of the Senate Banking Committee, Senator Ron Wyden, chair of the Senate Finance Committee, and Maxine Waters, chair of the House Financial Services Committee. The signatories to the letter include Kelsey Hightower, principal engineer at Google Cloud, and Bruce Schneier, a lecturer in public policy at Harvard Kennedy School, a board member of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, special advisor to IBM Security, and author of 14 books, including New York Times bestseller Data and Goliath: The Hidden Battles to Collect Your Data and Control Your World. The letter is particularly noteworthy in that it pulls no punches about either crypto or blockchain, the latter being an area that has been heralded by many on Wall Street and in Congress. The letter states, "Today we write to you urging the committee to take a critical, skeptical approach toward industry claims that crypto assets, sometimes called cryptocurrencies, crypto tokens, or Web3, are an innovative technology that is unreservedly good. We urge you to resist pressure from digital asset industry financiers, lobbyists, and boosters to create a regulatory safe haven for these risky, flawed, and unproven digital financial instruments, and to instead take an approach that protects the public interest and ensures technology is deployed in genuine service to the needs of ordinary citizens. We strongly disagree with the narrative peddled by those with a financial stake in the crypto asset industry that these technologies represent a positive financial innovation and are in any way suited in solving the financial problems facing ordinary Americans. I love that paragraph in particular, that they're focused on a peddled narrative that is funded and promoted by people who have a stake in the crypto asset industry. That in particular, going back to our look at Nigel Roberts and her crypto blockchain plug organization, her relationship with Hill Harper and his Black Wall Street wallet, all of these have white funding and backing behind it. And all of these have surface level financial relationships with white exchanges, platforms, technology, the blockchains themselves, what's the word I'm looking for? The apps or the technologies that allow for the exchange, that allow for the peer-to-peer, that allow for the encryption, all of that. All of these are relationships with a broader array of the white corporate world that, of course, benefits when people are brought in to the space. So again, as we were talking about with Jay-Z and the Bitcoin Academy and all of this stuff, and shout out again to the Marcy Projects folks who are like, nah, Jigga what? I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, as software engineers and technologists with deep expertise in our fields, we dispute the claims made in recent years about the novelty and potential of blockchain technology. They go into this issue of transaction reverse mechanisms that don't exist. You can't reverse it. You can't say, whoops, can't get my money back. From its inception, this technology has been a solution in search of a problem and has now latched onto concepts such as financial inclusion and data transparency to justify its existence, despite far better solutions already in use. And of course, none of this involves oppressed people politically organizing themselves to achieve political power and controlling the distribution of wealth we all participate in that's again, that's the only refrain I have about any economy. I give a damn what ism it is or how it's defined. We all produce the wealth. We all should benefit in it. You know what? I just saw this little exchange. So what if there are people who are lazy and then who benefit from that by being that exists now? So what? And then and again, as Fanon said, what we call laziness is the inertia people feel in response to it's their response to the colonial inertia that pushes us into quote unquote laziness. So I wonder if wealth and resources were more properly distributed, if people weren't forced, if the new technology allowed for people not only to not have to work, but to enjoy not having to work. In other words, you don't just get fired and go suffer, but you get fired and go live. Then who knows what would happen and what people would be encouraged to. And then if there are people who are just lazy and doing nothing on some level, so what? I got to find my book, The Right to Be Lazy, and get back to that. It's somewhere. I got to find anyway. And as we've covered here and talked about from the Martin's work as far back as 3 years ago, we reported this statement from NYU professor and economist Nouriel Roubini: cryptocurrencies are not even currencies, they're a joke. She talks about the volatility and the uselessness of them. Again, Bitcoin has declined 70% in seven months. And as we mentioned above, the latest blow up is Celsius Network, which can't find the money to pay its customers and has halted all withdrawals, but can afford those hefty billable hours to Aiken Gump. Aiken Gump is the law firm founded with the money earned from Bubba Gump Shrimp. Forrest, that kid at the end of Forrest Gump, who's played by the kid that ends up being in The Sixth Sense, that kid grows up to do Aiken Gump law firm. He inherits all that money from Bubba Gump Shrimp. And maybe his mother's insurance, life insurance. And they put together Aiken Gump, and now they're billing. So Celsius is saying, now we're going to come to Celsius here in a second, because this is where my point about Reggie Middleton comes back. You got to go watch that debate. No, actually, scratch that. If you have some, if you would like to see or even review, if you saw it already the first time, the only real value, honestly, aside from just silliness, the only real value of that debate is that I think it shows that when people in that space, crypto, capitalism, whatever, just in general, are confronted with people who don't agree with that general frame of capitalism and investment, they're just not, they don't know what to do. It just becomes fruitless, which is what I had said to him beforehand. We had that email exchange, and I was saying to Reggie, are you sure we even need to do this? Because remember, he reached out to me. He out of the blue contacted me saying he wanted to debate. And I was emailing him saying, I don't even know. I mean, honestly, I was like, look, man, you seem like, an honest capitalist in the sense that you're just out here trying to get it in the capitalist frame. I don't see you out here particularly doing the cryptoganda, targeting Black people, saying that this will lead you to freedom. So I don't like, that's why I was like, why are you even coming at me? What do you even want to do this for? And then as it plays out, it was like, it was silly. It was like, we're not. But in that exchange, he kept asking me if I knew what cryptocurrency was. And when I kept saying it's often promoted as actual currency, even though it isn't, he kept saying, you don't know what it is. That's not what it is. And instead of fully explaining himself, just from looking up his work and then seeing some of the broader arguments and even seeing what was just reported there in the Martins argument, people in the cryptocurrency space who try to avoid regulation and punishment, as Reggie suffered from the SEC, often don't want to call it currency. They want to call it tokens or want to call it some sort of other investment asset so that they can't be regulated and have the SEC in particular look out for them and try to catch them hustling and Ponzi scheming and ripping off investors. Again, I'm not defending the SEC. I'm just saying this is so he didn't want to define it as currency because as I'm going to show you in just a second, again, by defining it as a token that can be purchased to allow access to again, like getting a Disney park theme card that you use instead of direct cash. By calling it that, you can avoid being brought in under the purview of the SEC and the regulations involved there. And you don't get fined and have your tokens taken as happened with him by the SEC and threatened with charges of fraud. Again, I'm not advocating that either. I don't want to see another brother get locked up and hustled and harassed. And not that he wasn't headed towards prison, but I don't, that's not what I'm advocating. I'm just saying that's what that was. So the Celsius group, I'm going to show you we're going to come back to CoffeeZilla. Maybe my second favorite white guy in this space. So I'm only going to play you a segment of this CoffeeZilla segment where he really breaks down what's happening, what happened with Celsius and its collapse, and explains what it is. And I'm going to show you in a second how I'm relating this and connecting this to the issue with Reggie Middleton. And again, also what is not being reported to and by Black spaces and audiences. So he's talking about, that is, CoffeeZilla here is talking about Alex Mashinsky, who is the founder of Celsius, which, again, much like these other exchanges, promoted itself as an alternative to banks, something that is going to allow people to get around centralized government and da. But it is now collapsing, and as the Martins were reporting there, they can't pay their investors. Coffee's going to explain that in a second. So they're out there buying their lawyers, spending millions on lawyers to help protect them and protect the money they have grifted. But anyway, so he's talking about Mashinsky, the head of Celsius here, the founder.
Himself as a central piece of this technology, despite most histories of VoIP not even mentioning him. And this is a pattern of behavior of slightly stretching the truth. He claims, in fact, to be the inventor of a lot of things.
Yeah, he claimed to be an inventor of VoIP, the old, for some of us of a certain age will remember this, the voice over protocol, a voice over internet protocol technology that allowed people to use the internet as a phone back at the beginning. And now he's saying MOIP. The new thing is money over internet protocol. Anyway.
Things. He says he has patents that cover aspects of the smart grid, ad exchanges, Twitter, Skype, the App Store, Netflix's streaming concept. You'd think he basically invented the internet, actually. And in addition to him being this amazing inventor, another core part of his story seems to be that he's also a man of the people, not interested in money, but instead he's interested in fighting for the little guy and taking down mean old monopolies. This is his core pitch about VoIP, and also it's his new pitch today about banks.
So I fought the monopolies my entire life. I mean, I fought the phone companies. I fought all the different people who thought that it was a God-given right for them to charge high rates forever to all of us. And so VoIP was a great example of that.
Now remember, this is the kind of guy that people are still wanting to tell us is replacing the centralization and the horrors of the banking system. This is what they're saying. This is what we need here. This guy.
Of that, right? Where basically we created a new technology, a new platform, completely decentralized, completely autonomous to the entire phone lines infrastructure, and it rode on the internet for free, right? So the same thing is happening now with money, right? And this is the first time that you can basically replace the banks. The internet hasn't been able to do it. The first time that the technology, the crypto technology and the blockchain technology can replace the banks completely with peer-to-peer. So we're going from voice over IP to money over IP.
Money over IP. He says that's his new project with Celsius. And I got to say, MOIP has to be the worst marketing term for something of all time. It sounds like a chronic disease, honestly. Most people instead usually call it DeFi, decentralized finance, where you cut out the middleman and create smart contracts or little bits of code to replace what a bank might do, like lending, for example. Instead of going to a bank, you can go to Compound or Aave.
Okay, so I'm going to let it run for just another second or two, but that right there is the explanation of what Reggie Middleton was arguing in our debate, by the way, and the hustle, I would call it, that he's trying to run to avoid problems with the SEC and to capture more of what they see as a growing market for this kind of DeFi stuff. So Reggie is considered this founder of DeFi, decentralized finance, which he kept in a very circuitous and convoluted way try to avoid describing in the way CoffeeZilla is breaking down here very plainly. It is just an attempt to supplant the banks, to put yourself and your business in as the intermediary of any exchange. And the definition of a smart contract, calling something a smart contract, which is really just a program that doesn't execute the exchange until it can be confirmed that both parties have what they say they have. That's it. But that smart contract, as I said just a moment ago, we covered just a second ago, just talked about just a second ago, isn't reversible. So if we age a smart contract and I rip you off, there's no recompense, there's no response, there's no way to reverse that and have you get your money back. And that is what Reggie Middleton is engaged in terms of his Veritasium coin and business, and the patents that he's arguing that he has that put him in position to, I don't know, maybe own the whole thing. I don't know. The whole own the whole, or to have to get a piece of any exchange that occurs using smart contracts, blockchain, etc. But my point is that the claim is we're supplanting the banks. They're horrible, they're terrible, and if you use us as somehow you let my company be that somehow play that central role in what we can call a decentralized environment, you will all, and we will all do better.
Or Aave to get a decentralized loan. But crucially, in this DeFi world, Celsius doesn't exactly actually fit, because it's not decentralized at all. It's just his company. And this is where things get a little weird. Because when Alex Mashinsky describes what Celsius is in theory, it sounds like he's eliminating banks.
That is the killer. The application of basically eliminating the toll collector is the purpose of the blockchain.
But then when he describes what Celsius actually does, it sounds like he is a bank.
So Celsius Network enables you to deposit your coins, it enables you to lend them to someone else, and you get to keep 80% of the value.
I mean, you just heard it. Celsius takes deposits and lends money. That's literally the definition of a bank, according to Investopedia, except, well, for the fact that in this definition, it also says licensed. And in that one sense, the worst sense of all, Alex is correct. Celsius is not a bank, because it turns out they're not licensed to do this. If your bank loses money, for example, it's insured. If Celsius loses your money, well, you're out of luck. And this verbal sleight of hand is a pattern with Celsius. Mashinsky would use words like deposit and withdraw, which sounds like banking terms for a savings account, don't they? But in their terms of service, they explicitly spell out that these aren't banking terms at all. It's not what they mean. Instead, Celsius considers these deposits actually a loan to them, that you are lending to them to then lend to somebody else. And when you withdraw your money, you're not withdrawing from an account you own. You're calling your loan due, basically. And it turns out that's a pretty big difference. The other big trick they did was convincing people that, like a savings account, they said their Earn program, where you could get up to 10% a year on your deposit, they said it was low risk, incredibly low risk, as seen in this clip.
Bitcoin pays dividend. Try Celsius.
How does Bitcoin pay a dividend?
6.2% dividend. Because we earn yield.
How do you earn yield on Bitcoin? What do you do to generate income on that Bitcoin?
I'm happy to spend an hour with you.
Yeah, you're trading it. You got to be taking tremendous amount of risk. The Bitcoin itself doesn't generate any yield.
It does. Just like any other asset can generate yield. Gold.
No, but what earnings does Bitcoin generate?
Gold generates 5.5% at Celsius yield.
No,
tokenized
what
gold
are you doing to generate that? You must be taking tremendous risk to generate those returns.
Well, that turned out to be a huge lie. They were taking tremendous risk. Now, I spoke with a Celsius insider who, on the condition of being anonymous, told me that, quote, they were kind of degenerate in their DeFi pools. So it turns out they were taking tremendous risk, according to their own people. And I also spoke with a crypto sleuth called Dirty Bubble Media, who's been tracing these actions a long time before it fell apart to understand more. And I asked him, how is it possible that Celsius could earn 10% or more on their crypto? Here's what he told me.
Essentially, they were engaging in some fairly risky practices, essentially taking borrowed assets and lending on them multiple times in order to try to max.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there. I think that's basically the point. In other words, they're doing what any Ponzi scheme, what any hustle has ever done. They're taking people's money, they're investing it and hoping it brings a return, or they can use someone else's investment to pay somebody back before they get caught. It fell apart. All right. But the real point that I'm bringing that up, well, one, I just think it's fascinating, and I think that what CoffeeZilla does, I think his channel is great, and he always reminds me of the dude from Breaking Bad, and like Jesse Pinkman cleaned up and started investigating and started a YouTube channel. Like got off the meth, got out the street life and started exposing Wall Street. And again, not as a radical, not as necessarily as some sort of anti-capitalist. He's all into, he just doesn't want people to get ripped off. Although it's kind of, obviously the paradox is the whole thing is a ripoff. These are just ripoffs. These are derivative ripoffs, so to speak. Anyway, but when you come back to, I just wanted to bring up, this is Reggie Middleton's Veritasium platform, access to peer-to-peer capital markets for all. What is Veritasium? It's a highly disruptive revolution in finance, investment, and value. It uses blockchain technology, smart contracts, and distributed computing to aid industries and entities suffering from high economic rents, undue friction, and gross inefficiencies. Describing Veritasium is actually very simple, but that description is often frustrated by. So again, he says it's simple, but even what's written here is convoluted. Because he's trying to say I'm a bank. I'm trying to play the role of a bank without playing the role of a bank, so that I don't have to be licensed and I don't have to, Veritasium is a gateway to peer-to-peer capital markets that allows any two or more individuals to deal directly with each other in transactions of value without reliance on centralized or authoritative third parties. So then what do you become? The centralized authoritative third party. They can do this without concern for typical legacy credit or counterparty risk. Phenomenal, right? Anyway, so my point is, it's he's trying to do a version of the same thing, and then he uses what is called the Veri token, not as a coin, but as something that will give you access to other services and whatever on his platform. And that was the part that got him in trouble with the SEC. That they were saying you are promoting your token as a coin and as a currency, promising its value will be related to that. And he's saying, no, my coin is just a token that gives you access to other services from me. And I think that's how he was trying to. So in this, it's the same kind of. So it's another way of saying I'm not. I think this is what he's trying. I'm not trying to be a bank. I'm making the claim I'm replacing banks by giving access to everybody. Giving free access to the ability to do what banks do and take money from and centralize authority for. And give it all back to you. But it reads to me that he's trying to do the same thing the Celsius guy is doing, and yet promoting it. Now, again, usually I didn't see him promoting it to Black people in that way, but then engaging me on this argument that this world is liberatory for Black people. Anyway, all right. Let me just keep moving here. I just think it's fascinating. And then it's interesting because even on his website, Middleton's whole thing is the reason people have a hard time understanding what I'm doing is because they have a whole bunch of misinformation about this crypto world. And is anyway. All right, so announced the other day something we had brought up in I guess it's earlier stages of consideration, but announced the other day JP Morgan Chase commits $30 million to support historically Black colleges and universities and students. JP Morgan Chase commits $30 million to support HBCUs and students. Commitment will expand career pathways, student development programming, and promote financial education resources on campuses. Deepening our relationship with HBCUs is an important step to breaking down barriers and creating more access to economic opportunity for Black students, said Bina Elliott, Global Head of Advancing Black Pathways. This commitment offers HBCUs the flexibility they need to meet the unique needs of their students and provide the next generation with access to tools and resources to get ahead. Through this collaborative effort between UNCF and HBCU institutions, the firm is focused on supporting young people to successfully navigate transitions from post-secondary education to in-demand jobs of the future. Even before the pandemic, rapid changes in technology, automation, and artificial intelligence continue to shape the economy and exacerbate the disconnect between skills and jobs, particularly for young people. Colleges and universities are adjusting to better prepare their students for an ever-evolving labor market, including elevating the importance of connecting credentials and work experiences to in-demand jobs of the future. HBCUs play a critical role in creating pathways to economic opportunity. The 5-year commitment includes plans to continue the Student Financial Hardship Fund launched by the firm in February 2020 in partnership with the UNCF, United Negro College Fund, by the way, and the Thurgood Marshall College Fund to help students attending any of the HBCU member schools to cover the cost of personal finance emergencies that might otherwise prohibit them from continuing their education. And just to be clear, what they're saying is if you have an emergency and need to go home and need a flight, that's what they'll get for you. It's not, it's not anything more than that in that instance there. In October 2020, JP Morgan Chase announced a $30 billion 5-year commitment to address the key drivers of the racial wealth divide that included commitment to creating partnerships with HBCUs through curriculum development, scholarships, and mentorship programs to increase the pipeline of HBCU students entering the wealth management industry. This partnership program will strengthen career pathways for HBCU students into the wealth management industry with the goal to help develop the skills needed to grow a career as a financial advisor. And my beloved Morgan State is one of the beneficiaries. So again, for me, this is important because it helps understand why a number of things about HBCUs, but again, why I actually connect this back to part of why, again, so many, relatively speaking, Black people would be susceptible to the false messaging of specifically cryptoganda, but Black capitalism and entrepreneurialism writ large. Again, this is just another example of how this society looks to address the inequality it creates. The investment, the support, all is designed to bring people back into the existing economic system, which of course cannot produce wealth, cannot produce income parity, equal opportunity, etc. And it just continues this messaging of you just need to get more financially literate. You need to get more, be trained up to fit into the existing labor market needs of the society. And as we showed a couple shows ago, there are the development of specific cryptocurrency blockchain training sessions for HBCUs, all fits and grafts well onto this existing messaging. And what I would consider to be the kind of confusion. Just following up a little bit farther on that, JP Morgan Chase announces Bina Elliott as new head of advancing pathways. So if we go backwards to a little bit to December 2020, JP Morgan Chase announced today that Bina Elliott has been named the head of advancing Black pathways, a nearly 2-year-old strategy aimed at strengthening the economic foundation of the Black community. Elliott, who will report to the firm's global head of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Brian Lamb, will be responsible for executing a strategy that aims to help Black people achieve sustained success through targeted investments and programs in 4 key areas under the firm's DEI framework: careers and skills, financial health and wealth creation, business growth and entrepreneurship, and community development. So that's Miss Elliott is on her way doing her job. Backing up just a little bit from that announcement was this one: JP Morgan Chase commits $30 billion to advance racial equity. And I think we've covered some of this before, but what that actually meant for them: originate an additional 40,000 home purchases for Black and Latinx households, committing $8 billion in mortgages, which are, of course, loans, help an additional 20,000 Black and Latinx households achieve lower mortgage payments through refinancing loans. They're committing $4 billion to refinancing loans. Finance an additional 100,000 affordable rental units, providing $14 billion in new loans. So it's like, we're going to loan you $30 billion. Provide an additional 15,000 loans to small businesses. $2 billion loan effort. And they'll spend $750 million with Black and Latinx suppliers. So from 30 million, it looks like so far only 750 million of that it looks like actual payments through, business arrangements. Invest 50 million in CDFIs. So to loan money to Black and Latinx communities. Anyway, so that's my point in all this, is that, again, just for me, the impact of cryptocurrency on Black America, the impact of the crash on Black America, going from an already bad, I don't know to what extent this makes it worse, but from an already bad to worse situation, and looking at, again, from my perspective, part of what lays the groundwork for this to occur is the way so much of the messaging and the narrative is developed, and how so much of the so-called solutions that are targeted at Black people revolve around inducements back into playing a role, feeding the system itself. So yeah, we're going to help you, but but that help is a loan so that you can continue to participate in the economy in the way that we want you to participate in the economy. By the way, I thought it was interesting to see that, again, sort of to the point I'm getting at. This is, Black Enterprise reports the hiring of Bina Elliott as the new head of advancing Black pathways. This is the kind of way it's reported in the Black press, the Black commercial press, that is, these are the good things. Like this is having a Kamala Harris vice president and Lisa Thomas Greenfield and the Biden staff and the Raytheon, the Black Secretary of Defense, and I was like, it's reported as a positive that this Black woman is now running this program for J.P. Morgan Chase. So it reduces the likelihood that Black audiences will have an adequate analysis of what all this means. Okay. All right. So I pulled this up, which is described as Bitcoin Rich List, and which is a measurement of because the blockchain is a public ledger, you can see where cryptocurrencies are on the blockchain. And maybe not the names of, but you can see the wallets that hold the most. And what this is showing is that basically the top 2% of Bitcoin wallets have all the money. So wallets richer than, or addresses richer than $10 million, there's only 4,800 of those. $1 or, $1 has addresses that have about $1, 34 million, almost 34.5 million versus 4,800 that have 10 million or more. So you have in here, so like percentage of the coins. So 10 to 100 Bitcoin, 132,000 addresses, or 0.31%, holding 4.2 million Bitcoin. Bitcoin wallets with balances of 100,000 to 1 million Bitcoin, only 5 addresses, 4%. Five addresses have 15. That's billion, right? 884,998,000. 90 addresses. So that's zero. It's like not even a percentage. 1% of the have that much. Let's see. So the most in dollars amount is right about here. $132,000 addresses. But when you come down here to the broke ones, it's 3,261,441 addresses have nothing. Anyway. And then the top 100 richest addresses. But look here, they're all, look at, so Binance is the largest exchange in the world. And you can see that's where a lot of these are. OKEx, Binance. So a lot of the richest addresses are on this, the biggest exchange, obviously, in the world. It's just, anyway, I always struggle reading these kinds of graphs, but so I'm glad that they have some of the breakdowns here. But you can see that it's consolidated among a few addresses. So all of this involvement of black and brown and so-called, the retail investors only helps enrich or increase the value of that Bitcoin that's already bought up. And then they say themselves that there's a finite amount that will never expand, and this is supposed to be a good thing. But then you have Hill Harper coming around saying, look, I know you're never going to be able to afford a full Bitcoin, so buy Satoshis. So they just keep dividing it. So if you're saying it's finite, but it can constantly be divided into smaller little pieces or Satoshis, which are what are they, like 0.1% of a Bitcoin or something like that, then I mean there's still plenty for room for people to get in and spend a little bit of money, lose a lot of money, and increase the value of somebody else's wallet. So I haven't seen all of the reporting on this. I've seen some in I thought I saw a little bit in the Gentleman of Crypto, but I not enough to really fully stand behind it. But I just thought it was interesting because there's this argument that you should now buy the dip now that prices are low. So Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary is out here arguing that he's buying the dip on Bitcoin and Ether and says the collapse of risky tokens will help the crypto market. So this is part of the messaging that always comes in when people want to protect their investments. Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary, otherwise known as Mr. Wonderful, isn't sweating the cryptocurrency bear market. If anything, he thinks it will end up propping up the whole crypto sector in the long run. The venture capitalist explained that he's doubling down on tokens, including Bitcoin and Ether, as well as various Web3 projects. And again, they're calling it tokens, which is, again, I think going back to the whole Veritasium thing with Reggie Middleton, that's part of what I think is the hustle to avoid SEC charges, that they don't want to call it currency anymore, or they don't want to call it currency and want to and argue less that it's going to replace the dollar and become the currency, which is where all the value is supposed to be coming from. That's what Hill Harper says, what the Gentleman of Crypto says, and all these other black spokespeople for crypto. But he's saying, but by calling it a token, it's saying it's going to be more like any sort of other investment asset, and something that at best would be used again as a token to give you access to some other service, not as an actual a currency replacing the dollar. His portfolio reflects his bullishness for blockchain technologies more broadly. He currently holds 32 positions in digital asset space, including Solana and blockchain firm Polygon. Meanwhile, the O'Leary-backed WonderFi just became the first crypto trading platform to be featured on the Toronto Stock Exchange. But the crypto bear market has slammed valuations. Digital assets now make up 16% of his holdings, down from 20% 6 months ago. So again, just like we were looking at the beginning, white investors with more diverse portfolios can afford to do this. They can afford to sell off when things are going bad because they have holdings in other areas. So where for most black investors, crypto was up to well over 20 to 30 to 40% of their portfolio, if not more. It's only now 16% of this guy's. And by the way, he's also investing in not just currencies, but the platforms that trade them, i.e. banks, an unlicensed bank. He said investing in cryptocurrencies is like investing in software. Again, I would have argued the same thing, but that's the point. It would be foolish to argue that black people should collectively be out here investing in software as a pathway to revolution. That language only works when you're claiming something is new, as in cryptocurrency, and has other functions, as in, i.e., becoming a currency. Anyway. But ultimately, his point is that this is a rounding error that will help investors in the long run, because it's going to get rid of the mistakes. It's going to correct the market. It's going to make what survives safer for people to invest in, so on and so on and so on. By the way, this should be far less of a surprise. Coinbase CEO has never been more bullish, even after $430 million quarter one loss. Well, of course he's bullish, because Coinbase makes money off of every trade, every exchange, and would, of course, not want people to stop investing in crypto just because it's collapsing. And Brian Armstrong, as we've reported here, made, I think, $600 million just over the pandemic, doesn't want people to stop. So he's disclosed its first net loss. Coinbase has disclosed its first net loss as a public company. But CEO Brian Armstrong said on an earnings call that he's never been more bullish on where we are as a company. In its first quarter 2022 report, Coinbase disclosed that revenue had dropped 27% to $1.17 billion, down from $1.6 billion in the first quarter 2021, and a long way off its Q4 2021 revenue at $2.5 billion. Monthly transacting users also dropped by over 19% to 9.2 million from last quarter's 11.4. So that's obviously his key concern, because he makes money off of all those transactions. Armstrong said the company was greedy when others are fearful, acquiring talent and focusing on projects and infrastructure for the future. Armstrong said that 54% of the platform's active users are doing something other than crypto trading, but didn't clarify what activities, and made no mention of the new NFT marketplace in his opening statement. So part of what I think that this means in terms specifically for us is that if venture capitalists, if Coinbase CEOs, if others who would not only make money from further, more engagement in crypto, but who also have the ability to advertise and fund and support other ventures, as we've looked at again with Jack Dorsey, Jay-Z, the Bitcoin Academy, Hill Harper, Black Wall Street Wallet, et cetera, and so forth, then they have the ability to message to Black audiences a continuity of engagement and support, and ultimately further losses. So obviously it's not always going to work, and that's sort of my point with Cryptoganda, with propaganda, with media in general. It's not to say that every message is successful. It is. I just won't always think it's more important to point out the intent of the message and the sender, not necessarily its effectiveness, because the intent is what reveals all that is going on here. So if the attempt of Block Inc. and Jack Dorsey and Jay-Z is to hustle Marcy residents into investing into a world that will increase the revenue and the wealth of Jack and Jay-Z and et cetera, and it fails, as it seems it is doing, thankfully, as Marcy residents seem to not be falling for it, it still reveals through the intent that this is the nature of the game: to falsely represent, to manipulate, to propagandize, to rebrand, to deny political aspiration, political power, aspiration for political power, all of that. And that's what I think we need to be focused on, not just the message, its success, its failure rate, and so on and so forth. In fact, let's see, what did I have here? Oh, right. In fact, as Mr. Coinbase is bullish, I think we mentioned this the other day as well. They're laying off 18% of their workforce. And we're headed to potentially another crypto winter. We grew too quickly. That is Coinbase. So we have to basically slow down by firing some of you. And it says here, if you are affected, you will receive this notification in your personal email because we made the decision to cut access to Coinbase systems for affected employees. So you can't even access your Coinbase email. So they send it to your Gmail that you're fired. Now you're fired. That's in the direct email to Coinbase employees, 18% of whom lost their jobs. But to the public, hey, it's better than ever. We're going to rebound. Venture capitalists saying it's going to make us stronger going forward. It's going to, we're going to, expand and grow and do all these other things. So don't give up. Don't quit. Oh, I have this here. I got to follow up on this, but I'll just share it with you because maybe you all know what this is. What is this MoonPay thing? I'm just seeing, this is sort of my point in terms of not specific, maybe as a trickle down to Black folks, but just in terms of celebrity engagement. Justin Bieber, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Ashton Kutcher are among dozens of celebrity investors piling into crypto startup MoonPay. The company lets users buy cryptocurrencies using conventional payment methods like credit cards, bank transfers, or mobile wallets. So it's just another conduit allowing you to, it's just another platform allowing you to use your credit card to buy crypto. What do Justin Bieber, Gwyneth Paltrow, Snoop Dogg, and Ashton Kutcher all have in common? Aside from being A-list celebrities, they're among more than 60 new investors in fintech startup MoonPay. Additional celeb investors include Chainsmokers, Drake, Eva Longoria, Jason Derulo, Kate Hudson, Paris Hilton, Matthew McConaughey, Mindy Kaling, Questlove, and Shawn Mendes. The new investors are contributing a collective $87 million to a previously announced $555 million funding round led by Tiger Global and Kochu, valuing MoonPay at $3.4 billion. Wow, that's really good of those celebrities to raise $87 million for MoonPay. I'm tripping in my silence. I'm tripping. I'm sure they've done just as much for other, for prison abolition, for healthcare and homelessness and police violence. And so my bad. I'm tripping in my silence. MoonPay also sells its technology to other businesses, including crypto website Bitcoin.com and non-fungible token marketplace OpenSea that just got, remember we just talked about their insider trading? Crypto as a service. That's nice. That's nice. Okay. I'm sure that'll pay. That'll be good for us. That'll be good for us. So as I turn to a close here, I think what I wanted to do here and what I started to flirt with in this draft, this never ending, is I think I want to sort of expand the purpose and the branding of the misleadership argument, and that we need to get, we have a problem with a misleadership in economic punditry. If you remember the other day, we were talking about, I showed you a clip in where nationalism goes wrong, where the white boy was offering up the legit argument around this, and the Black spokespeople, including this sister here, Cleve Messidor, was in there arguing that it's not right that white people be the go-to people for discussions of Black and brown people's involvement in crypto spaces. Cleve and I might be together. I don't know if we were indirectly together. We might be again at the. I think I'm going to be. I think I've been invited. I think it's official invitation. I'm not sure. 2 people have reached out to me from the Black Bitcoin, Black Blockchain conference at Howard that I was at last year. Shout out to Sinclair Skinner, good brother. We don't agree on this at all, but I don't consider this dude to be a bad dude at all. We just don't agree on crypto. But he's, you know, he and others have invited me to participate, and so we'll see. But I think that Cleve and other that she's part of this. What I would think needs to be rebranded, if it hasn't already been, is a misleadership class of Black economic analysis. And as she, you know, her whole thing. I mean, and this is not that old. This is from May 12th. You know, a little more than a month ago. And you know, the crash had already begun. The prices had already begun to fall, and as everything is collapsing, you know, she's telling us that crypto can be a driver for racial equality. Young Americans, especially young Black and Latino professionals, are redefining money and wealth, fueling a relatively new $3 trillion market and creating a new financial system. None of that is true. No, I'm incorrect. That's not true. I'm sorry. Part of this, I think, is true. That Black and Latino professionals are fueling a relatively new $3 trillion market, but it is not creating a new financial system. And the fueling is as it's always been. Black people have always fueled the economy of the West, and still do, globally, internationally. Exploitation of colonized communities fuels and drives the economy of the West. Cue up that classic speech where Nkrumah tells in a speech, I think at Oxford, was he at Oxford? Somewhere in England. And he's like, he shout out to all, forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Shout out to all of you British folks and your social welfare systems and your democracy and your national health care and all that stuff. Great job. Shout out to you. Just one thing though, we're the ones funding it. We Africans are the ones fueling it, to use the language of Miss Messidor here. And just reminding you, your beautiful socialisms or varieties of socialists is born on our colonization, neo or old. So as I started with, Black people are not economically improving. Black people are at the same time more involved in investing in cryptocurrency than anybody else. And it's largely in part to well-placed, funded by white entities, Black economic misleadership spokespeople. Cryptocurrencies cut out massive institutions that control traditional finance. We just showed you how that's not true. Celsius was one example. Coinbase, Binance, FTX, OpenSea. These are white centralized platform or Asian centralized platforms that benefit more than anybody from the trading and the exchanging. Just showed you the accumulation of Bitcoin in the top 2% of Bitcoin wallets. So what new financial system? The same accumulation of wealth and consolidation and centralization of authority and exchange and so forth is right there. And you know, despite all the claims of the Cleve Messidors and the Reggie Middletons and that if you go to a Black owned Veritasium platform to do your trading with smart contracts, that this is somehow going to be good for the collective of Black people, or it's somehow going to be changing again, I've debated the CEO of the Black owned industrial bank in DC on relative related issues. Black ownership of banks hasn't helped in the traditional economic model. How does Black ownership of a platform or a protocol help the Black collective? No one has answered that. And in fact, quite the opposite. The gentleman of crypto quite explicitly said, we're not caring about everybody. I'm not mad at it, but it is kind of funny to me. You know, I had a drink with him that morning, but my man said they're drinking a beer 10 o'clock in the morning, talking about, I don't care about y'all. Messidor describes this as working outside the system. And that a crypto wallet is engaging the banking system, is replacing the need for a bank account, because we're excluded in bank accounts. So we'll just get into wallets. Well, you're excluded in wallets too, because all the Bitcoin is in someone else's. But here's the one I thought this was funny to me. In 2013, while serving in the Obama administration promoting economic development, a friend introduced me to Bitcoin. And there it is. This is the overlap of Black misleadership. While serving in the Obama administration, I learned to perfect my Cryptoganda skills in promoting Black capitalism as Black liberation. Just my little paraphrase there. So again, anyway. Yeah, again, Black misleadership. So listen, as we turn to close here, ultimately my point is, or one of the points I'm trying to make and trying to work out and organize for these essays and chapters, et cetera, and so forth, and such and whatnot, is that, well, put one way, Black misleadership in political economy, or an economic argument in punditry, rather, is fronting for traditional capitalism, for white corporations, encouraging, promoting Black involvement at levels higher than most others or all others, from a variety of perspectives, has been shown to be a spurious at best endeavor that's claimed to be the new liberatory effort. So I would say, so ultimately, what I think I'm trying to argue here is that what the crypto crash impact on Black America is, on one hand, going to have more of an impact in terms of the percentage by population of those involved, is not likely to have, I think, enough of an impact on an already horrific situation. But I also don't think it's going to have the appropriate impact in revealing to enough of us how this messaging works. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Marcy Project's example is a certain, extent, a positive in terms of the response. That initial, I already know this is jacked up response, how that gets cultivated into an organized, politicized Jane's revenge, I don't know. That part I don't know. But the cryptoganda, the propaganda, the messaging, the narrative creation, is all meant to blunt that, so that when the young brothers and sisters in the Marcys of this country and the world say, nah, B, me and Dr. Hate's favorite NBA player, you all thought it was Michael Jordan, but for me and Dr. Hate, our favorite player is not Michael Jordan, it's not LeBron, not even Steph Curry. Got to go back a couple generations to that under-heralded legend. Abdul Nabi. Shout out to Dr. 8, boy. That's the best player in the NBA, in NBA history. Abdul Nabi. Hold up. Hold up. Right? Yeah, Awad Abdul Nabi. That's right. Where's my man at? Let me pull him up here real quick. There you go. He was the best NBA player. I can't even find a picture of him playing. But this is it. This is the best NBA player of all time right here. There you go. Awad Abdul Nabi. Nah, B. That's what they said. That's what they were saying. They were like, nah, B. They were calling that their best player. Nah, B. I'm not going for it. But then here comes all the Cryptoganda saying, now come on back. So this is where I'm going to end. I'm going to end on this. This would be what they used to do on the Daily Show. This would be your moment of zen. Tyler Perry hosted the Atlanta Police Department for a police appreciation event at Tyler Perry Studios for Juneteenth. Yeah. Because after all my logic and my theory, they add this so all the ignorant hear me. Yeah. Anyway, so this was, you know, in a sort of comedic way. This is sort of the point, and this is why I'm still proud of you know, not the former. Let me leave that alone. I'm very proud of the chapter that I co-authored about Tyler Perry a couple years ago. Because the point I'm making is that Tyler Perry is promoted and encouraged by a society that needs this kind of messaging as a reminder, as the propaganda against that initial, nah, B, I'm not going for it. So when folks stand up and say, I'm not going for it, they could throw us a Tyler Perry movie. They could throw us a Spike Lee crypto commercial. They could throw us a pick one of the Black misleadership class politically, and this little subset I want to sort of develop this misleadership of economic punditry to come back in and say, hey, nah, it's not that bad. You can, if you just, you know, get your financial literacy straight. And ultimately, this is why I'm saying, you know, going back to the very beginning of the show, why I'm saying that, yeah, we don't look, I think most of us are not craving some sort of violent conflict, not advocating violent conflict, but we have to have, we have to have space for objective analysis of the historical role of violent response and the conditions that encourage it. And if the primary mechanism or a primary mechanism of or function of cryptoganda, of propaganda, of psychological warfare is to generate nominal options for people whose oppression will not end, we have to be able to call that out too, and then be able to look, I think, more, again, objectively at the choices some make to engage in what is dismissed as violence. So I once in tried to write it this way, and I mix what I like, that we need to be engaged in a journalistic media production equivalent to armed struggle. That the media we produce, and the reason I loved the mixtape concept at the time was that I was advocating that we get rid of even this kind of engagement on sanctioned platforms, or get rid of the sanctioned use of sanctioned platforms, that we have to be more disruptive in our media production and our journalism to create the equivalent of violence in the physical world, with the idea that this is the only way to disrupt the consciousness and the patterns of consciousness development. Because because as fun as it is, and I enjoy it, and easy as it is for me to sit here for 2 hours and try to lay out, it's not easy for me to write it or organize the thoughts, but to try to lay out these thoughts around the relationship between cryptoganda and the impact materially on Black people, it's easier for them to produce people and media and journalism that contradicts this and encourages something else. And as much fun as I have here, as much as I love our BPM project, I'm under no illusions that we're winning, or that we can win in some sort of straight up, you produce a video, I produce a video. Like that's not gonna be in advance. So on some level, and I'll stop here, I'll check in the chat, see if anybody has any comments or questions real quick, or thoughts that they want to throw out real quick, maybe that I've missed, or something they want to throw, you know, a criticism or something real quick. I can take a couple minutes if you want, but or if anybody actually, even if you want to jump up on here and come on screen, I'm open that I can put the in fact, I'll do that real quick. I'll put the studio link in the chat, and if anybody wants to jump in, feel free. But otherwise, that's basically it. That's what I was, you know. I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to put that part in the chapter of the book, or anything like that. But that is really ultimately what I'm thinking about. That in terms of this discussion here today. Anyway. I'm not advocating a violent response. Black people love this country and system, in part because, I mean, I'm saying what I was trying to argue in the I mix what I like argument was that we need to be creating media that try to, you know, disrupt the messaging that creates the love of all of this. Oh, I missed that. I'm missing the context here. Going to get Star Talk Radio. Who's Star Talk Radio? What's going on? Oh, is this a troll? Is this a cute? Anyway, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, but anyway, I can wrap it there. I do hope everybody, you know, again, I thank everybody for checking this out. Those who stuck around to the end. I appreciate those who will see and hear this later on. Definitely like, share, subscribe, check out the merch, check out the Discord. Make sure your bell is selected, because, you know, with the summer here now, you never know, you know, when I or others are going to be popping up and doing more than our normal programming. Other than that, we will be back tomorrow with the Remix Morning Show. Oh, hold on. Arthur Clark. Good morning. What's up? What's up? Welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, good afternoon, my brother. Just, you know, based on the conversation I was having with the crowd in the chat pertaining to this. Me, I understand that liberation is a multi-pronged attack. It's not just one thing dealing with finance and things of that nature. And as far as the cryptocurrency, I agree with you. But my only pushback is, I think a lot of times when we look at our celebrities, when they go into these forays of trying to find some solution or deal with financial institutions to kind of create an equitable playing field, it's best that they can do. Because, you're a very learned brother. You're a very educated brother. You speak very eloquently about a lot of things financially, a lot of things, dealing with Black people. So I know you've done the research on a lot of things. But these things are just engagements, man, to just try to create any traction, right? And these guys just try to use their platform and the fact that they're in circles and spaces that a lot of people are not dealing with, people, billionaires, corporate people who they have their ear. These people are willing to listen to the Jay-Z's and things of that nature, right? And I understand some people's pushback when you get celebrities to pitch cryptocurrency, to pitch. These companies are capitalistic entities, right? So they're going to find mainstream voices and faces to help promote the product, that services that they're selling. I mean, that's a no-brainer. We know that already. But my thing is, we take such umbrage to a person like Jay-Z and always tries to demean his attempts. Oh, he's just trying to get rich and he's just trying to do that. And we never just really look at the total impact of their actions. Like, we always look to undermine what they're doing and they have some facetious intentions, instead of seeing that they're just trying to create some equitable playing field and get some relief, however means, by any means necessary to do it. That's my only point. And I think a lot of times we just get caught up in this, we can't listen to celebrities and they're trying to, help corporations rob the poor. I mean, every instance is not like that. So that's what's on my mind, brother.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for jumping up here and sharing that. What really the only thing I'm trying to show is that again, it's not even personal to the celebrities. But the reality is they're performing a task that is paid for that ultimately supports somebody else that isn't supporting the collective, that they even as it's claimed to be that way. So Jay-Z doing the Bitcoin Academy, I'm not saying Jay-Z is to be blamed for everything wrong in Black America, but I am saying that he is taking a check, making a business arrangement or an investment with a white corporate entity or series of them to promote fantasy to his community, to enrich himself. The only thing he knows is going to happen is he's going to make money. The promises he's making to his community, he knows is not either at all possible, likely, or is ultimately not even the mission. So he knows that. But even if he doesn't know that, it's our job to produce, I think, to develop an analysis that says, look, Jay-Z, you may think you're doing the best thing you do, Nas, your NFT album, Tory Lanez NFT album, Kim Kardashian, and your, IG promotions and Killer Mike and your Greenwood Bank. I just looked up the other day, Greenwood Bank is still at $43 million in value in revenue. So the $3 million they got from Jesse Williamson, the actor, and $40 million they got from a collective of JP Morgan and Citibank, that's still all they're working with. My point is, even if they, in their heart of hearts, believe that what they're doing is for the collective and is an honest attempt and is the right thing, they are, it isn't. So again, I'm only looking to show that, look, celebrity has been put in position, and really my real argument is celebrity only has ever existed, can only ever exist and be sustained to perform these political missions of giving oppressed people anything other than the option of their assuming political power as goals and hopes and fantasies. Celebrity is here to help extract money from us. It is here to help cajole us, to advertise to us, to manage us in ways that will keep us from organizing politically for power. So it's not personal, but that's what it is. By the way, I support anybody jumping off here who wants to go check out WPFW and Doctors Horn and Carr. I support that, support WPFW. So I don't mind you dipping off and coming back. later if you like. And I don't know if anybody else is going to jump in here. Doesn't look like it, but I appreciate the brother doing that and raising that issue. Oh, really? Don't appreciate him? Oh, well. Okay. Oh, and by the way, you know, you said, Shirley, that I was moving into Kalanji territory. How does Kalanji say it? You know, don't get it twisted. I just look like this. I think because look, I get it. I'm not from the hood. Light skin, mixed. I get it. You have every reason to believe that I wouldn't be in that camp, but I'm more in Kalanji's camp than most people might realize. I might even be more Kalanji's camp than Kalanji, but it just comes across differently. Anyway, it's all good. I'm just playing. All right, good people. Listen, let's keep it moving. I appreciate all you coming through. I look again, support everything, support, you know, the channel. Make sure your whatchamacallits are all set and done it. And you know, I hope you enjoyed this this morning here at I Mix What I Like and Black Power Media. I definitely appreciate you. I have a lot of fun doing this. It's all good. And if you know, if I can't get it on the page, I might as well. Oh, McJagermeister, what's going on? Just as I was getting ready to dip out. What you got? What's on your mind?
Peace. I just wanted to say thank you again for having the show today, and also that debate was really infuriating but hilarious because Geechee's face was really funny.
The Reggie Middleton joint. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that you had to do that, man. That's why we don't argue with fools. That was wild. But yeah, I also wanted to just close the loop on the conversation about the Second Amendment stuff, if you had, time.
Sure, go ahead. What's up?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you got a chance to see it, but I posted some of the constitutional, legal ideas and sources on people that analyze the Second Amendment, talking about that it's not just pertaining to militias. Did you get a chance to look at that?
No, I didn't. This was in the Discord?
Yeah, it was in the Discord.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say then we don't really have to get into it now. I just wanted to clarify and like use those as sources because I think it was like misinterpreted that I was using Scalia as like a justification for why Black people should like remain armed. But I'm sure you know that I'm just like I'm a Marxist, of course, but I'm saying that the proletariat shouldn't be disarmed. There's a pretty good conversation about it, I think, in the Discord. That I was simply using Scalia to say that like R.M. Brown's interpretation of the Second Amendment is wrong. Like, I'm not using that to justify why we need arms. It's just like, no, that's not even right. It's not just about militias.
Okay, so you're saying so you're saying in the Discord you supplied the arguments for why it's not just about a militia.
Correct. Essentially, different constitutional lawyers have looked at the Second Amendment. There's a couple of cases where they're saying that within the English language at that time and this time, there are two separate clauses within the Second Amendment. And if they were to mean it for it to only be for militias, then they would have stated that. It also, there are analyses in a couple different cases, one in, I think, Massachusetts and one in DC, particularly about bearing arms or whatever, or like the right to own or carry a gun. They talk about how it's also not about their concept of weapons at the time either, because they were able to see into the future. And, most folks' idea of like guns at the time of, the ratification of the Bill of Rights or whatever is they only had muskets and things like that, but that's not true. They had concepts of weapons that could fire, 20 rounds within 3 seconds, and stuff like that. So they weren't like behind the times of weapons. And arms is also not just guns. It's also considered like bulletproof vests or knives or, you know, a lightsaber if somebody had one. But you know what I'm saying? Like it talks about all that stuff, but I'll try to tag you.
No, I get it. And honestly, I mean, honestly, I'm not, it's cool. And I'm glad if people in the Discord want it, and they should get the link is in the show description. That's fine. I'm honestly not going to read all of that. I'm not that much interested in the argument, because the only reason I was bringing it up is because I thought what Aaron Brown did on his show was funny. It was kind of an approach I had never considered. And I don't see a lot of people actually pulling up the Second Amendment and reading it when they talk about it. Usually it's talked about as if everybody already assumes they understand it and they've read it and they're reading it. Now, you know, and I get it, having married an attorney, having, you know, heard arguments, legal arguments in other areas. I get it. Lawyers are brilliant and can do a lot of different things and can come up with a lot of different interpretations and all of that. My only thing is, look, I don't believe, look, I get it. Any argument can be made, but I honestly don't believe that when they wrote that they were thinking about what would be akin to today's weaponry being in the hands of teenagers, outside of the context of defending their freedom from an encroaching, you know, ignoble imperial power. That's what to me, the context is pretty clear. The arguments have been turned around to justify a lot of other nonsense. And of course, I'm only, you know, saying that in terms of their own argument. I don't think that, as you said, that we should be disarmed. I don't think anything like that. I do also think that a lot of us in the left have fantasies about what those arms could do in a conflict. I think some of us are misleading, but that's another whole thing. But anyway, I appreciate that, my man.
Yeah, for sure. And I, you know, completely agree that the constitutional argument is not as important. And I think a lot of folks got confused when I wrote that comment that I was arguing for the Constitution or saying the Constitution justifies this. I was just saying, like, no, R.M. Brown's analysis is wrong because of X, Y, Z. But yeah, and I think the left also has an issue, whatever we mean by the left, has an issue. But
remember, did you see Brown's thing though? Because I don't think he's wrong in saying that the rabid white NRA folks are twisting the Constitution to justify their persistent accumulation of weapons. I don't think he's wrong in that. Which is really all he was trying to say. Like he even says there's a leftist argument for being armed, but that he agrees with. So I think he's clearly saying when he's looking at the Steven Crowders doing their podcast with their gun vests on and their holsters on, and the militias are out here, he's saying you all are not what your own founders had in mind. And I think he's right about that.
I think that's the point he's exactly wrong about, because we have to remember that the Constitution and the founding fathers were white supremacist, disgusting, blah, 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 blahs. So they're not misinterpreting it at all, in my opinion. I think they're fulfilling the wishes.
Right, but they were the militias, though. They saw themselves as the militias. They were not, and that's why the state now ultimately only lets them flourish to a certain point. The state doesn't accept these militias either. Not officially, and doesn't want them to flourish officially. They were white supremacists, capitalists, vicious slave owners for a good portion of them. So I don't think that they were trying to justify their own behavior, and I think that's really it. But you know, anyway, my bad. Go ahead. You can have the last word on this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Final point is, you know, people's interpretation of that Second Amendment is that they put that in there for the express reason to protect against like hegemonic forces in the state or whatever, right? So they talked about the commons in England and in Europe and how banning of the weapons allowed, you know, oligarchs or whatever to thrive and allowed the king to do blah, 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 blah. So that's why they put it in there, so that the people would always have arms, and the militia is the people of a place, right? The militia is everybody, well, according to the Constitution or constitutional law, it's every able-bodied man between age 18 and 40 or something like that with a gun and proper training. But it's not something that has to be formulated. It's not created by the state. That's dictated in constitutional law. And it's also, like there's a bunch of crap that we could get into. But the essential point is that the white folks are doing the white folk thing. And it's not unjustified by the Constitution. Our rights to own the guns are, Black folks are contradicted by the Constitution, because the Constitution had, essentially all gun control laws were created to stop poor and Black, and brown people from having guns. The Second Amendment is in the Bill of Rights because it's like something that's inalienable, right? But then they started putting additions to it once Black folks and poor folks were seen as more of a enemy in the sort of like the hardening of capitalism. So essentially I say we argue against all that gun control until there is a revolution. And just like you said, people have like this weird idea of the capability of the guns on the left. And they also have a weird idea of the place of training and our folks that are in the military in the left too. Lots of folks are like, the military is bad, spit on the army, blah, 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 blah. I mean, essentially within imperialism, yes, but we have to remember the working class people that are in there. And the basis for revolution in most places, I'm not sure about the United States, but if we look at the Bolshevik Revolution, if we look at Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, if we look at any of these places, they were creating a lot of the platform for that revolution through working with working class people in the military, right? In the Bolshevik Revolution, they had created unions for the soldiers and officers, and that's how they were able to, during the Civil War, stop the Ukrainians, because they were like, we're going to give you land, and also you're not going to take stupid orders. Going to World War I and the Bolshevik Revolution, all of those things. So the left really has to understand like the historical basis of like the military people are the brothers and sisters of poor people, and they don't want to do this crap either. But yeah, that's where we still live.
All right. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thanks for jumping on here and sharing that and clarifying that. And thanks for participating in the Discord as well. Although I'm kind of dead prez on the military police question. Once you put on that uniform, again, I don't think it mattered that while I was pushing bombs up to the flight deck that I had Malcolm's autobiography stuffed in my pocket. Ultimately, anyway. But look here, good people. Thanks again to everybody. Once again, make sure you click everything, share everything, do all the things and all of that, and be back here tomorrow, 8 a.m. for the Remix Morning Show and all that good boom bap breakfast. So like Fred Hampton used to say, you would say peace, because you're willing to fight for it, and catch you tomorrow morning and next time that I Mix What I Like, Black Power Media Remix, all that good stuff. Peace, everybody. Thanks again.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let me get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, no. Shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Tree. I'm taking all three of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.